Australians need to wake the F up. Martin North, John Adams, In the Interest of the People. Hello, John.
Hello, sir.
Oh, nice calm title there.
To be honest, Martin, I am completely pissed off.
I guessed.
Yes. The thing is that I mean, look, I think it's now we've reached a point in our evolution of our program where even among some of our viewers, we need to be absolutely blunt with some of the nonsense that we are getting back in some of our YouTube comments. So obviously the last show we did an expose about the federal budget.
Yep.
And the show before that, we talked about how much additional gross debt Australia's 9 governments are likely to pile up over 5 financial years from July 2019 to June 2024. There was a particular YouTube comment on our last program that just drove me nuts. And I thought to myself, it is so important from an economic point of view that we just cannot let this comment slide, because unfortunately this comment we're about to show is all too common in this country, and this attitude, which is prevailing across most of Australia, is the reason why we are in decline as a country. So let's actually put this up on the screen for our audience to see. So now, the person, whoever they are, they didn't reveal their real name. So we're not actually engaging in defamation per se, because we're not actually targeting an individual. But this is the quote.
And just to say, this is on the website, right, in the quote section, so people can go and check it out, right?
Yes. So now, with our last show, we published it on In the Interest of the People, and then you showed a preview on Walk the Walk.
Yep.
So this is from In the Interest of the People YouTube comments. So that's where I saw it, and this is where I took it from.
Yep.
So this is the quote. Bugger it. I have no real estate to worry about. This isn't my debt to worry about on a personal level, and my children are not going to own it either. That is one of the most ignorant political and economic comments I have seen. And unfortunately, if our audience can cast their mind, for those who have been watching us for a while, in February of last year, we interviewed Campbell Newman, the former Queensland Premier, and Campbell Newman got demolished in the 2015 election. Now, at the time, I referred to focus group testing that the Liberal National Party did after that election. Now, I didn't reveal who told me this, but I'll reveal it tonight. So George Christensen, the member for Dawson, he told me, I think in 2019, in a private conversation in federal parliament, that after the 2015 election, the Liberal National Party wanted to understand why was the loss of the Newman government so large? Why was it so dramatic? So they did some polling, they did some focus group testing. They got the people, Queenslanders, in a room and said, well, aren't you concerned? Because obviously they wanted to understand, why wasn't some of the benefits of the Newman government recognised? And again, I'm not an apologist for Campbell Newman or anything like that, but the question was asked, what about the Queensland budget deficit? And obviously there was a dramatic austerity package that Campbell Newman brought in. And if people want to go back and watch that interview, he said that when he walked into the premiership and he sat down with officials and saw the real state of the books, it was worse than what he thought as leader of the opposition. So he took an aggressive approach to cutting public expenditure, to put the state on a path of balancing the books, as well as trying to get the debt under some semblance of control. So after the 2015 election loss, when the Liberal Party did some polling, they brought people in and said, what about the debt? What about the deficit? Half of the respondents said, that's not my debt, that's the politicians. I didn't do that, I'm not responsible, I don't acknowledge it's my problem. That's half of them. The other half apparently said, I understand that this is a problem and that it needs to be addressed, but I don't want to pay for it. So that's where the austerity pack, the program of Campbell Newman received no public support in Queensland. And this is the type of statement that drove that election outcome. And since then, and you know, politicians may not say this publicly, but they will definitely say it privately. Because it's been said to me, if I try to do the right thing for the country, I will lose an election. So when members of federal parliament have said about the household debt bubble, how do we fix it, John? Raise interest rates, pop the bubble, shrink the debt, have actually a more responsible banking policy. And you had a number of years ago Professor Steve Keen on this program, and Professor Keen said that to have a sustainable economy, you need households with about a third of the debt they're carrying now. So we need to shrink the debt. So whether it's about household debt, foreign debt, or now even this public sector debt where we do require some responsible decisions being made, politicians tell me privately, John, I understand the arguments you make. As an economist, they all make sense. I just cannot win an election doing so. Now, on 2 points, the first point I've said to some of these politicians is there's only been one election in federal Australian history where a political leader went to an election with a explicit austerity campaign and they won the biggest victory in Australian history. That was Joseph Lyons in the 1931 election, and we covered that in a program last year that only the 10th Prime Minister can save Australia. So when I say to people, well, you haven't tried to actually explain to the public, because if you do try, well, when someone actually did try, they were actually successful in winning office and actually implementing a program. But in the current environment, when voters are saying this, that it's not my problem, it's not my debt, my children are not going to pay for it, politicians will just take the easy way out of racking up ever more debt in the trillions of dollars, printing the money supply to exorbitant amounts, and we're going to have this massive inflationary stagflation problem, which basically means, and I think we may have even discussed this in a previous show, in March of this year, Business Insider reported a third of Australians are in financial distress. I mean, some people have asked me, what happened to your economic Armageddon thesis? Well, Armageddon's here. When a third of the country is in distress, this is a professor from the University of Melbourne. When a third of the households are in financial distress, when 25% of households are suffering depression and anxiety because of finances, that is a horrific economy. That's not an economy where you can say the economy's strong and everyone is doing well. No, a lot of people are not doing well. And again, we need to come to terms with the full scale of what this country is going through. And attitudes like this is the antithesis of what we need at this time.
Well, let me make a couple of points there, John. The first is, of course, there is a wonderful set of alibis being used now, which is, one, interest rates are really, really low, so we can borrow a lot more. Right. Secondly, they quote the MMT gospel of truth, which means that you can borrow as much as you like for as long as you like, because the government isn't like a standard household budget, right? And then the third thing is, of course, that as we said the other day, Frydenberg's now said no. The critical issue is to get unemployment down, and we'll do whatever it takes to get unemployment down. So that basically they've got an alibi for that too. But the fundamental point is that debt is there, it's lurking, it needs to be addressed, and you're right. You know, my data, other people's data is highlighting this massive residual issue with so many households now in Australia already, right? That, like it or not, they've actually got caught by this trap already. So it's not like we're all home and free, right? It's already biting, it's already hurting, and ahead it's going to bite and hurt even more.
They think they can get away with anything. The mainstream media has pushed propaganda on 90% of the public. Maybe 10%, maybe less of the population is awake. But even those who watch our program still think that all of this is just some sort of theoretical game, and that they're not impacted. I mean, this is real life. This is no. I mean, we're not playing games here. I mean, look, we're not playing with imaginary numbers, a billion here, a trillion there. I mean, we're talking about real stuff, and people need to wake up and actually assume responsibility not only for their own personal circumstances but for their country. Because if we allow Morrison and Frydenberg to run the show for the next 5 years, God knows where we're going to be.
Right. So there are a couple of observations, John. The first is clearly there are points where we should be, lobbying the current incumbents, right? Like we did with the cash ban and those sorts of things. But there's also a broader question when it comes to election time, right? Because, of course, the next election has been basically set up by the last budget with lots of giveaways and lots of fuzziness, but not actually tackling the fundamental issues that we know that are there with regard to the debt. And they're incurring more than 100 billion of interest payments over the next few years, which is an opportunity cost of doing things that could really make a difference to our economy, as we discussed the other day.
Exactly.
So there's a really important point of action here. Everybody, like it or not, you have a vote, right? Well, use that vote and make a difference.